Hi grade 7s, let me explain to you how to add and subtract decimal numbers. We are on page 101 in your textbook, and you guys have to, at the end of today's lesson, do exercise 15.8. The first thing that you'll see is that in this exercise it says to you that you must first write an estimate for each sum. They keep saying that you must estimate. So I firstly want to talk about estimating. Yesterday we looked at rounding off. You watched the video about how to round off to the nearest whole number. So if you look at what you see here, if you're going to estimate a sum like this, 1,2 minus 0,9, your estimate will be, well, let's look at 1,2. It lies between two whole numbers 1 and 2. And which one is it closer to? It's closer to 1. Another way to look at it is to ask yourself, well, 2. Is 2 bigger than 5 or smaller than 5? 2 is smaller than 5, which means its neighbor on the left is going to stay the same when I round off. So 1,2 rounds off to 1. And then 0,9, if I look at that, 9, is it bigger or smaller than 5? It's bigger than 5, so its neighbor on the left will change. Remember, your big neighbor is a bully and he tells you to change. So that one will then become a 1. Another way to look at this one is to ask, well, 0,9, it lies between the numbers 0 and 1. Which one is it closer to? It's closer to the 1. So when I round these off, they both become a 1. And 1 minus 1 is 0. Now, that might seem like you haven't really reached any conclusion, but that means my answer is going to be close to 0. Now, I can just quickly do this one up here for you. 1,2 minus 0,9. You can simply ignore the commas. Pretend they're not there. Let's start without them. And we're going to say, okay, I have to borrow from the 1. That becomes a 12. 12 minus 9 is 3. And that's then 0 minus 0, which is 0. Now I put the commas back. And I bring it down to there. So my answer is 0,3. Now, if you think about it, 0,3 is pretty close to 0. And that's why my estimate was a good indication of my answer. If I look at the next one, how about estimating 3,5 minus 0,4? To round this off, 3,5. Remember, 5 is in the middle. So if I have a 5, does my number go up or down? A 5 rounds up. So 3,5 is actually exactly halfway between 3 and 4, right? But we're going to take it to 4 because we have the rule that 5 rounds up. So that's 4. And then 0,4 is it closer to 0 or closer to 1? Well, 4 is smaller than 5, so that means the neighbor on the left can stay the same. So it's a 0. So 4 minus 0 is 4. If I do the sum, 3,5 minus 0,4. This one's quite easy because I don't have to borrow. 5 minus 4 is 1. 3 minus 0 is 3. And the comma always stays in line with where it was. So my answer is 3,1. That is quite close to 4. So yes, my estimate was a good indication. Now that you know what estimating is, let's go look at how we have to add or subtract. To add them, the very important thing is that you write the numbers underneath each other with commas lining up. And then you fill any gaps with zeros. The first sum that I'm going to do for you is 21,39 plus 7,8. When I line up, do you see that this one has 2 decimal places? This one only has 1. Now, if I go and write them just from left to right, I'm going to end up with my 8 under my 1, which is not in the same place value. So, don't do that. What we're going to do, we're going to say, okay, the comma is there. So, 7,8 must be there. And now you'll see what I mean when I say fill your gaps with zeros. You don't have to dot them. You can just do a proper 0. But that's just to say I've added them in. Now I can go do a normal plus sum as if there was no commas. 9 plus 0 is 9. 3 plus 8 is 8, 9, 10, 11. 1 carries over. 7 plus 1 is 8. Plus 1 is 9. And 2 plus 0 is 2. Do you see that the comma just stayed in line with where it was? Now, I have to do the estimate. I actually should have done it first instead of last, because that's going to just help me see if my answer is correct. It definitely helps me to see if my comma is in the right place. So 21,39 is closer to 21 than it is to 22. So like we spoke about estimates now, that one is 20, not 22, it's 21. And 7,8 is closer to 8 than it is to 7. So that's going to be 8. Now 21 plus 8 is 29. And let's see how close that is to my real answer. Yes, that's pretty close. Do you see that if you had put your comma in the wrong place, let's say maybe you put your comma there, and your answer was 291. Then your estimate would show you, no, it can't be 291. You have to do the dirt test. I'm a whole, like, more than 200 out, so no. And that's why we do the estimate. Next sum. If we do 124,89, again, if I'm going to now subtract 70,2, I am going to line up the commas, make sure they are underneath each other. That means I've got my, remember the first decimal is tenths, hey? And the second decimal place is hundredths. So my tenths are under my tenths here. And my ones are, or units are under my units, and my tens are under my tens. I fill the gaps with zeros. That's just to make it easier for myself. I can do it without, but it's not as nice. Then now I need to subtract. 9 minus 0, 9. 8 minus 2, 6. 4 minus 0, 4. 2 minus 7 I can't do, so I go take from there. That becomes 12. So that's 3, 4, 5. Right, there we go. Bring down your comma, just keep it where it was, and you've got your answer. Again, let's do the estimate. I keep forgetting to do it first, but it's okay if you do it last, as long as you check. My estimate now, 124,89. The moment I see that's an 8, I know I'm going up. So my estimate is 125. And that 2 is small, so I know I'm staying the same. So that's going to just be 70. Now, when I do 125 minus 70, well, let's do a quick check because I need to make sure. 120 minus 70. If I take a 20 away, that'll be 100. If I take another 50 away, that'll be 50. And then I still have that 5 to add. That's 55. How close is that? How close is that 55 to this answer? Pretty close. I've definitely not made a mistake in where I've put my comma. You'll see you now have to do sum of exercise 15.8 and sum of page 30 in your fill-in book. Good luck. Before you do, one more thing. We did look at how to estimate. You also have to copy these notes into your workbook, and remember to just add in these words that we're going to use later on. Sum, the sum of two numbers means you have to plus them. The difference between two numbers is minus, but remember, if we say less than, if we say 5 less than 10, we have to minus them in the other order. So 5 less than 10 is not 5 minus 10, it is 10 minus 5. Product means times and quotient means divide.